Okay. You have a little button right up there. Push the. Should be. Is it not working, Cameron? There you go.
And then we will listen to the call. Christmas photos. We actually have a very nice who are living from
Just the form of the.
Yeah.
It made it sound like it wasn't.
If they don't mind,
Okay.
I decided we want to speak that. We need to communicate. In the middle of the day, this one will be from 11:30.
Okay.
It's really for public,
Next was the business. What is it?
yeah, so it is positive.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It was
Yes, good evening. The request is for the commercial subdivision of property located in South Carolina. The primary request less than four. There is a transportation only that will apply. We have two. The overall transportation plan does note that a proposed trail shall be located on the property line. The recent highway traffic improvement, the land completed that is accommodated. In addition, the city is working with the applicant. There are no city public floodways that were identified on that property. There is a wetland that is identified, and that is not development of the parcel of the appropriate mitigation value. That has coordinated commercial service providers and has unique concerns of the city does have active water sewer capacity department development. Will further review as they are compliant. There's no direct access to the property with the ground sewer system. On the app, this plan is called a private lift station, as well as only making sewer lines to get to our public private system. The connection proposed is between the property. The developer has submitted preliminary form design and has been reviewed by the city staff and third-party engineers. The developer is working with the city and notified the further evaluation of the property if necessary for the development. At this time, we are proposing this item to existing access one on the south and one of the east of 46. Based on staff report, staff is recommending approval as well as the they recommend approval.
looks like there are 6 lots. And yes, but you know, let me ask you that. We have not survey. Was service line. We will have. And citywide.
Citywide. Long-term. Talking about that, in order to accommodate from the city.
There is. They're not here for this particular item, but there is someone on Zoom, yes.
I don't really have a whole lot more to add, but I am happy to answer any questions. Mr. Gardner, the one question you asked was about the commercial lots. So lot 1, which is more or less the bulk of the property, that'll be the property that'll be used by the county as part of their government plaza. And then the 2 lots along the south along Highway 14, and then there are 3 lots that border 25th Street. Those 5 lots are, it's the county's goal to sell those off as commercially available lots.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't quite catch what Cameron said. I know he addressed it, but about roadway improvements, they will be addressed as needed from the county and the state.
Correct. We'll work directly with the city as well as with MoDOT for any improvements that they may seek along Highway 14. And then, of course, the one internal road that will be public will be designed to fully meet City of Ozark specifications.
Okay, and what about 25th Street? Will there be any further changes that the city will need to make on that? And that may be, I didn't think that when Cameron was up here.
Yeah, we don't know that at this time, but if there is, we'll work with the city to make that happen.
Okay, so I'm just curious. We are if we approve the plat, then is there a commitment or an obligation on their part if the city and MoDOT comes up with road improvements that are required at a later date? Are they then obligated to comply with those after the plat's approved?
I guess my response would be yes, they are obligated to comply with those. Based on what we're finding at this point, it didn't identify directly what improvements would be required since they're utilizing existing drive accesses to those properties at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience here to speak on this topic this evening? If there's no one else in the audience and the board has no further questions, this bill will be held over until the next legislative session. Mr. Galloway, the floor is yours.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3397 on its first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Flores to place bill number 3397 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into an intergovernmental agreement for a Christian County hotel market and financial feasibility study.
All right, Mr. Childers.
Okay, I think this is mine. Give you a little background. For the last probably 4 or 5 years, we have been talking to hotel concierge who might be able to bring us some more hotel rooms. We've probably met with a half a dozen people who had shown interest in this area, and we know that that's going to come. However, what we have found out is that in that particular industry, there is something called a hospitality study. And the hospitality study evaluates the entire area. It looks at other rooms. It looks at how many you have, looks at traffic counts. It does all those things that, you know, most studies that we know in economic development do, and they look at. We did work with Show Me Christian County about 3 years ago when we realized that that would be a big help in actually having a further conversation with people that are interested in this area to bring hospitality. And we found out that that study was anywhere between $40,000 and $50,000 to do. That was a lot for us to take on ourselves. And we really recognized that we had maybe 1 or 2 prime spots that would be likely for a hotel to go in based on the knowledge that we have on traffic counts and data and that sort of thing. So what we did was went back and began talking to our partners over in Nixa as well as the county who will benefit if either Nixa or Ozark do get a hospitality, a new hotel. And we have decided to bring this forward to our respective boards. And what that means is that we went out and found a new company. Show Me Christian County did. I don't want to act like we did. Show Me Christian County went out and went through the process, and they RFQs and all of that, found a company who could do this. They would be contracting with that company to do this study. What Nixa and Ozark did was we each submitted 2 prime sites. So each city will have 2 prime sites that are evaluated in this study. And that way we can all split and share in the cost of getting the information that would have cost us a lot more to do on our own. And we're doing a partnership project. I think we've all learned that the partnership projects are, well, they're just beneficial for everybody and they save everybody a little bit of money. So what we have before you tonight is an intergovernmental agreement that would exist between Show Me Christian County, the city of Ozark, the city of Nixa, and Christian County. And it would allow for us to share in the cost of completing the study. And you can see on page right here that it would be $13,000 for the city of Ozark. We did go to a Christian County meeting to present the concept. That's what we did. And the city administrator of Nixa was there, as well as I was, as well as the director of Show Me Christian County. The county was interested in moving forward with this, and now it's going to everybody's board to go through the process. This is just a first reading. So as everybody else goes through the process, we'll be able to answer your questions as if everybody has done that and where they're at the second reading. So we'll give you that update at that time. But anyway, bringing this forward because we think it's a great deal to work with our partners. We think this will take us to the next step and allow us to have more serious conversations with the hospitality industry. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Childers?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Go right ahead, Mr. Campbell.
So I don't know the right way to say this, but our spokesperson for the 3 entities, the county, Nixa, and Ozark, Show Me Christian County would actually be kind of like our spokesperson, and they are contracting with Hundred or whatever.
Yeah, they would be actually contracting with the consultant. So the consultant, Hunden, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Hunden is a consultant. They would have an agreement with Show Me Christian County to produce this study. We are agreeing to pay for our portion of that study. back to Show Me Christian County. So basically, once the study goes through the process and is complete, then they will invoice the city, we will pay that, and then we will get our study.
Okay.
So we're not contracting directly with Hunden. We're actually being invoiced by Show Me Christian County.
Okay.
Any additional, Mr. Gardner?
Just a curiosity question, and I don't know if it's appropriate to be answered, but I'm wondering what the two sites were that we submitted. LCRA probably would be one, but.
No, actually that wasn't one. We're focused on Highway 65 corridor, and that's really where the interest of the national hotel chains are. And so I can tell you, without getting into specifics, there's one at the northern interchange and there's one at the southern interchange. And so that's where those are. We remember we have an RFP out on the streets right now, solicited by the LCRA, specifically for that area across the street. And so we hope that we'll be, sometime in the next 45 days, talking to a prospective developer more about that area. So we focused on the north and the south interchanges.
All right, any additional questions for Mr. Childers? No Zoom participants on this topic. Is there anyone in the audience that is here this evening to speak on this topic? Hearing no questions from the audience, no further comments from the members of the Board of Aldermen, this bill will be held over until the next legislative session. Mr. Gardner. Motion was made by Alderman Gardner, seconded by Alderman Campbell to place bill number 3398 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a facility relocation and adjustment agreement with Spire, Missouri Incorporated for the relocation of certain Spire facilities.
Mr. Parsons.
Thank you. Good evening. As you all can probably see by your trips down Jackson Street, advancing nicely with the Chadwick Flyer. What we're bringing before you tonight is we're working with our partners on this. Our design professional, CMT, is the name of the firm that we worked with on this project. Andy is actually on the call this evening via Zoom. Matt DeMoss is here with CMT as well. He's an engineer, a local Ozark grad. I always give him a hard time. He's just building these trails for his kids, really. So, but good crew. I want to start out by saying that this did surprise us. We did an extensive due diligence phase, which I'd be happy to share the emails with you all. In our preliminary utility location analysis, we worked with all the major utility providers to make sure that we were clear with our proposed plans. And we did receive confirmation from all of our utility providers saying, we're good. Now, that being said, fast forward 12 months later, Spire came back to us and said, listen, we've got a problem. And we've got a problem on the west side, just where the underpass goes to the north from the OC to the old railway bed. Right there, there's a high pressure gas main. It's an 8-inch. It's actually one of the mains that feed the city of Ozark. But basically what we're gonna do, I'm gonna pull up some pictures. You can see the slope on that. And I'm gonna try to do this without getting away from the microphone, but uh-oh. Now, there we are. So up to on the picture to the left, you can see where the pedestrian underpass daylights underneath Jackson Street there. What you're seeing being built right now is a continuation of a storm box, because that is a large drainage channel. I'm sure plenty of you have seen that full of water at times. So that will carry on down to the creek that enters into the Finley right next to the pavilion, next to the OC. So that's where that water goes. But right now, what we're doing is, in order to maintain, since this is a multimodal trail, in order to maintain ADA compliance, we can only go so steep with that. So when they started looking at the final elevations, Spire came to us and said, time out. We've got a problem here. We're not going to meet our minimum depth. And that's important to them for two reasons. Obviously, we all have our depth standards. For us, it's 42 inches with water mains. It's 42 inches with gas mains of that size as well. So basically what they're doing in the gas business, they call this a dog leg. They will just 90 down, shoot over for about 80 feet and 90 back up to the existing high pressure gas main. And that'll ensure that it's at the proper depth, and it'll also ensure that we've got the amount of cover we need to structurally not impact that gas main, because it is a big gas main. I talked to the guys that are going to be doing the work today. Gary Jones is with Spire, and we work with him on several projects throughout the community. He did assure me that they'll be able to backfeed this project while they're doing the connection. So that means there's going to be no service interruption. It's very similar to what we do with water. They're going to valve this off, backfeed from another direction, make that dog leg, and then keep going. I feel like because we've done our due diligence, because we've got a good design team with relationships with MoDOT, we were able to work with Spire and get this relocation basically package put together and put before you. I do want to remind you, and I think it's in the explanation sheet, this is a reimbursable cost because we did follow the proper due diligence process. So we're looking right now at around $67,000. And I think I've got a cost breakdown. That's next to your packet in that same group there but I think you've got it all in your packet as well, the cost breakdown. So, but that's what we're doing. It's not a fun surprise. Like I was talking to someone earlier that's in the construction business. It's just a construction surprise. But I'm thankful that we found it. I'm thankful that it's a reimbursable expense. And we just told them time out. This is one, Amanda and I talked about this along with the mayor and Steve, or Mr. Childers. And we said, hey, let's take this to the board. This is at a certain cost. So time out, and we'll get back with you once we get through both readings. We didn't think this warranted any type of expediting or anything like that. So, but we've got a plan, we've got a cost, and we got a reimbursement already submitted. So I think we're in good shape. And if I said anything wrong, Matt is your man. If you want to pick on him tonight, that'd be great. So, or Andy's on there as well. So,
Mr. Gardner.
You said that the cost was 67, and I see that on the sheet, but the city's share of that is not 67.
That's correct. We'll be reimbursed for 80% of that. So rounding, it's about $13,000 that will be out of pocket.
So the mistake that we took every precaution to avoid is going to cost us 13 of the 67.
That's correct. That's our share. That's our 20% share.
Mr. Callaway.
Reimbursed by who?
MoDOT, this is TAP 827. This is an STPG grant, very similar to what we did with our 3 other projects. Very similar to what we're going to present at the next meeting. We'll be presenting phase 2 of the Chadwick Flyer to you that we've got the funding allocated for. So this is federally funded through the Transportation Alternative Program.
So because your department engaged in due diligence, we were able to save our taxpayers 80% of the bill.
Because we went through all the steps, and a big kudos to CMT. We stayed on them. If I sent you our string of emails, we pestered them. And sometimes you have to be persistent with utility providers, and we did. And I'm not saying anything negative about Spire. We have a great working relationship with those in the field and their engineer, but we're doing this once and we're doing it right. So
thanks to CMT, you said.
Thanks to CMT, and yes.
Thank
you. Yep.
Mr. Campbell.
This is kind of related, but really doesn't have anything to do with the Spire gas line. But looking at the pictures you were showing a while ago, as I drove by there, I wondered how we were going to get up out of that hole on the north side.
Yeah.
And so I suspect it's just going to be a box culvert going on up through there at 1% or,
Can we
I mean,
get back to
at
that
8%, I'm sorry.
If we get back to that picture, I'll show you exactly how we're gonna get up there because,
I'd be interested, yeah.
because what you're looking at down below is actually the creek bottom there, the wet weather stream. Where that project daylights is considerably higher in
Oh, okay.
elevation. So we don't have that much elevation to gain. But this is where you're going, I think. From your construction standpoint, we thought about maybe catwalking up.
That's what I wondered about.
I wondered if that's where you were going. So we looked at the cost of that.
Yeah.
And the cost was going to be greater to make that extension of trail with handrail than it was to relocate the actual gas main.
Okay.
So,
That answers my question.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I think we're fine.
All right, any additional questions for Mr. Parsons? Thank you, sir. Is anyone in the audience here to speak on this evening?
I have one thing to add. Again, like Jeremy said, my name is Matt Tomas. I'm representing CMT Engineering. Jeremy did a great job explaining that. One thing I do want to point out is, as he said, we did our due diligence and we did end up looking at an alternative, as he was talking about with you, Mr. Campbell, of realigning the trail. And with not only the cost side of that, we also looked at the alignment of that and how that would affect the end user and the full alignment of the trail. And when we came back and at the end of that, I realized that that is not the best alignment, that the original design proved to be best for the future trail alignment for the full corridor. And so that is another reason, in addition to the cost, that we're recommending that moving forward with the change order of the gas main.
All right, perfect. If you
Any
wouldn't mind
questions?
filling out a speaker's card and giving to the clerk
Absolutely.
before we leave this evening, I'd appreciate that. Are there any questions for the engineer? Mr. Snyder?
You're an Eagle Scout, right?
I sure am. Yes, sir.
I was a scout.
There we go. All right, any Zoom comments this evening?
Nope, I have none. Thank you.
I believe he's trying to speak, but it's not quite loud enough. And I don't know if it's going to be our speaker here that needs to be turned up.
If you want to speak.
Now you're unmuted.
Can you hear us?
Okay. I can. Can you hear me okay, Jeremy?
Talk now, Andy.
Okay, how about that? Is that better?
Yes, sir. A little bit, yes.
Okay, sorry to put you all through that for very little comment, but just wanted to echo everything that Jeremy and Matt said about this situation, and feel that this is the best course of action going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no one else in the audience here this evening to speak on this topic, and there's no additional comments from the members of the Board of Aldermen, this bill will be held over until the next legislative session. Moving into second reading and final passage of bills, Mr. Flores.
I move that we place bill 3391 on the second reading by title and description.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Campbell to place bill number 3391 on its second reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance amending the zoning code and official map by changing the zoning classification of certain real property, generally known as a parcel approximately 3 acres, bordered by South Sixth Avenue on the west and by the east Becky Lane to the north.
All right, are any additional questions, comments, concerns with regards to the bill? Mr. Snyder.
I'm looking at the schematic they have here, and I don't see any type of a buffer on the east side. Definitely need to get some clarification on that. And I'm just curious as to what type of security measures we're going to put in here. Because I'll tell you now, I don't like this idea. I don't. I'm just voicing it now. We did it with the last meeting. I live in this neighborhood. My neighbors have spoken out against this. They do not want additional storage facilities here. And where the tree buffer is on the north side, there are residences right there. So I feel their pain. They don't want to look at a wall. They don't want to look at a tree from their front yard. I just think this is a horrible idea for storage in this area. There's definitely going to be an increased call for service when it comes to the police aspect of it. I believe, I don't want to speak, for the chief right here, but I'm pretty sure he can give his thoughts on burglaries that occur at storage buildings right here. Anytime you have anything like this and it's not properly surveilled with video and it's not built right and it's put in the middle of a neighborhood, it's going to draw the criminal element in here. I do not feel this is a good idea to expand this to outside storage right now. I think it's just, I think it's a poor decision. And that's my thoughts on it.
Mr. Gardner?
I'd like an explanation from staff, what kind of buffering is going to be required if the zoning is changed to allow this?
Yes, I'll address that, and I'd like to add a couple of additional things, but on your site plan in front of you, it handed out a site plan, a couple of images of what the storage facilities would look like, along with an email from Mr. Aaron Hess, who is here this evening. Following the last meeting, there were some questions, concerns brought up, so staff reached out to him and got some clarifications. In regards to specific to the buffer, in that site plan, they do indicate a tree buffer area to the north. I don't know the details of what that'll consist of, but there is a buffer they're proposing there. By our zoning ordinance, this property will be zoned office warehouse if it's successful. It would not require any specific buffer because the intervening road right away between that property and the residential properties to the north. On this exhibit, they are not showing the buffer to the east that is required. That would be buffer yard B between an office warehousing zoning district and the existing commercial zoning district that will remain there, that is intervening between the residents to the east. Buffer yard B is required to be 25 feet in width, 2 canopy trees, plus 2 understory trees, plus 2 evergreen trees, and 15 shrubs per 100 feet of property line. In addition to that buffer, there is required to be either a privacy type fence or a 3-foot berm. That is what's identified in our ordinance for buffering. Be happy to answer any additional questions.
I think I was. Yeah. Thank you. Number one, I want to say I appreciate the responses that Mr. Hess came back to us with. I'm actually in favor of this project, and that's, I think it's, I like it a whole lot better than the modular pods. I'm not sure what they call those. I like the fact that he's going to be blacktop, and I did see one note that said potential water management. Is that probably going to be
That would be required, and we've addressed that. Any additional impervious area they're gonna create on site, they'll have to manage and maintain their own stormwater facility. The off-site facility is not designed to accommodate this property, so they'll have to address that on their.
And I
own
think we
property.
discussed that some a couple weeks ago, didn't we?
Yes, we addressed that, and then also that property owner to the south has voiced concerns, making sure they don't drain to their facility.
I mean, it's a storage area now, and that's what it's, I'm okay with it myself.
Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, on this diagram, east is where?
What's that?
On this diagram,
Yes.
east is the buildings. Okay.
North is up, yeah.
Okay. So where there's the series of buildings, what's not shown on the diagram are tree buffers that are already in the ordinance, or is that what you said?
Well, on this diagram, I think, and I can let the applicant address specifically, but this case, there was concerns about the residents to the north, and so they've indicated some proposed buffer. But no, it does not show what's required by ordinance when they go to develop to install design and plant the eastern buffer, which would go in addition to that north side.
If you could show us on the map where the lots are shown.
I guess I would look at an aerial or just an overall aerial photo. But north is up. So on this map here, looking here, the existing facility building here, they're proposing to build to the east of that building. The existing water tower sits right here. And so they'd have a buffer yard B required here between the office warehouse approved zoning, if approved, and the commercial zoning that will remain to the east. To the north is Becky Lane. And so they wouldn't have anything to the north.
Is there any chance we could have this diagram up?
Should be in the packet, the zoning.
I have it in the packet, but if you could see it up. There you go. Can you show me where the trees would be that required by ordinance?
See that cyan line, property line, which is north south? This line
Yes.
here,
Yes.
that north south line on the eastern side would have that buffer yard
On the eastern side,
on the eastern property.
well,
That's the eastern. That's the required buffer by ordinance. What they're proposing on the exhibit is a buffer on the north property line between the existing building and the east line. The house is here. Because there's a street. There's a street, intervening street. There's an intervening right of way, the buffer yard is not required.
And there's an existing building on the upper left there, which is going to be that's the existing climate control building. Okay.
The old naval facility.
So there's then trees that are surrounding every edge that is, I guess, adjacent to residences then.
There's potentially existing trees, yes, that can be maintained, left there, place additional, provide additional buffer.
But that's what the developer has proposed, is even where there are not supposed to be trees by our ordinance, I mean, not required trees by our ordinance, they're saying we're gonna put the tree buffer there in the part that faces the residences, and then on the other side, on the right side, as I look at that diagram, there's already required to be trees there.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Gardner?
you may have already answered these questions, but I'm having trouble putting the answer on the right line. I understand where the existing building is, and that is the part that's outlined in that blue-green rectangle, right?
Right.
Okay, and what we're talking about tonight is not that building, not that rectangle, but the land that goes to the east of it.
Just
No.
within the square, not within the Cyanus property line. We got a pointer up.
Okay.
So what they're proposing, this line right here, so this is the edge of the existing building.
Oh, okay.
Proposing to do a buffer here that's not required by ordinance. The ordinance does require a buffer along this line.
Okay.
This is the existing water tower.
Ah,
This
okay.
red is on commercial sea. And then the green forces residential and then all of them.
Okay, well, that, I was not seeing it that way. That clarifies it. I thought that the property was gonna go all the way over to South 9th Avenue, but it doesn't. So, Dave, I'm curious, knowing that there's gonna be a buffer on the north and one on the east, and the water tower is on the east, would you, not arguing with you, but explain to me your concern that those buffers are not enough?
My concern, this is strictly from my experience in law enforcement, looking at it. Anytime you have an exterior storage facility, there is more potential for burglaries and break-ins in that particular neighborhood, not just, for the storage facility itself, but the neighborhood as a whole. My concern is what's going to come with that. You have climate control storage now. You have people that have access inside a building. Now you're putting these buildings outside, okay? If there's not going to be adequate lighting, even though it says, fantastic, I like what it says here, but this can be deceiving, okay? I've seen this time and time again. We're going to put this, we're going to put that. And I'm not ridiculing you. Please understand that. I'm not ridiculing that. It's just, I've seen what happens when they as construction folks as a whole build external storage. It creates problems. It draws problems in. We already have an issue on the south side of the street, okay? We have pod storage that is easily seen from the road, which is an eyesore. Now, I'm glad that the proposal here is not pod storage. I am very glad for that, but I still have a concern for the neighborhood as a whole. When you draw the criminal element in, and it's the facts of life, it's going to happen. These particular storage modules that I see right here, that is easily defeatable with a code. I've seen it time and time again. The chief can support what I say here. Are we going to have adequate surveillance? Is there going to be a one in, one out? I'm just curious, where's the entrance going in and out? That's going to be one of my big concerns if I can get an answer on it.
Yes, sir.
I make one vote.
Yes, sir.
I had requested to speak prior to Rick asking him a question.
Yes.
So, and I've seen some reaction going on here. And that's just my point. That's my point of order.
I got you. I'm following you. It gets a little difficult when we're going back and forth like this and the control of the microphone.
Let's make it right.
And we technically, we don't allow public comment. I guess that we can allow the applicant to go ahead and answer direct questions. Is that correct? All right.
No, that's correct. I stay corrected on that.
Yeah. So if you'll give me just 1 second, let him answer that one question. We'll go straight back to you. I apologize. I think the specific question is egress in and out. Where is that point of entry?
Yes, I guess I'll just introduce myself first too.
Yes, sir.
My name is
Please.
Aaron Hess with KO Storage, and I'm a former sergeant of Homestead County Sheriff's Office as well. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the responsibilities that KO does for its community, its members, and its needs. We would be utilizing with the state-of-the-art gate access control system based off its current entrances to the site. So the property would be fenced, it would be tree lined, and then we would have keypads that each individual unit would be assigned to based off its rental needs. And then we also have security cameras that are 24/7.
Okay.
That speaks to that issue.
No,
Thank you. All right, Mr. Campbell, I'm gonna go back to you.
I'm actually having a little bit of trouble hearing you. I don't know if you're standing too far away from the
Oh,
mic.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't talk loud either usually, but
I'm not picking it up over the speaker or something. Except me. Okay. That's it. I know, I saw that.
Go right ahead.
So my question was going to be, I'm not sure that all of us have read the email that you sent. Sure. But I think it explains, it has answers to a couple of Alderman Snyder's questions. And I was going to ask you to kind of hit on the bullet points that he had asked questions about. If you, basically security, which you may have said something about security there a while ago.
Yeah.
But I wasn't hearing you good.
Yeah, no, I can start over with that.
Okay.
We do, we are not just a storage facility. We also are some, technology driven. With this specific property, we would put up a 6-foot fence, whatever would be allowable under the office warehouse codes. We would also have a controlled gate access that has a keypad entry that's assigned to each renter, each space. And we also have 24/7 security camera surveillance of the property as well. Yep, we do lighting inside of each facility. We do a photometric study on the front end with architects and engineers to make sure that that light isn't cast into the residential neighborhoods, that it stays right on the property, and that we meet the specific needs of the codes and the area for appropriate lighting requirements. And it's my job to uphold those standards throughout the construction project.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Flores?
I noticed that you said that you would be, the picture shows gravel in front of the storage units, but you're planning on asphalting all of that?
We would, yeah, that was just an example of some facilities that we finished in Wisconsin Dells, just to show that they have 9'4" eaves, and we can match colors and do whatever we need.
And my other question would be, do you plan on matching the existing facility with the colors that you use for the storages, or will it be, will it follow the kind of the tan and the blue? And I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, we try and keep with our brand identity and get close to what we have for that standard, which is a blue color, and then tan or whatever we have with existing facilities that are currently on the site.
Okay. All right, any additional questions while we have the applicants up here? We're good? All right, thank you, sir. All right, if there's no additional questions, Mr. Galloway?
Not a question for the applicant. I'll just state where I'm at, and I'm interested if it draws any comment. So not required to, but I think I've mentioned, I give planning and zoning its credit, so they feel like they are respected in how they decide things by presuming that they made the right decision. In the first meeting, I had expressed some dissatisfaction, though, with what was being proposed. And I paid particular attention to Alderman Snyder's remarks. But I think where I'm at is, although I have questions about having storage so close to residential areas. In this case, we have an existing building. We have a developer that's wanting to put a tree buffer along the area that abuts where they don't have to, abuts or is adjacent to the residential area. And then we have ordinances, which I didn't see reflected here, and I'm not complaining. I just didn't know on this diagram that runs down the corner of it. And then I've heard the applicant talk about 24-hour security cameras, fencing and lighting. I think a great many of my concerns are worn down to where I'm not feeling that I want to overturn the planning and zoning decision on this as modified here. So those are my comments. And then I guess as to the tree buffer, Cameron, what assurances that we have that it'll actually be done?
As far as assurances, like any application project, we follow all the zoning codes and requirements to make sure they include those when they're appropriate, as required on their plans for permit. So during the time they go to make application for permitted building the buildings for approval, we'd make sure they achieve the required buffers. They'll look at our dark sky ordinance, the fencing requirements, paving, stormwater, all those such requirements would come into play for us to review.
I meant the tree buffer that was not required that they're proposed on this diagram.
The buffer, in that case, I don't know that there's anything that specific that staff would have other than approval based on the board, like a conditional overlay or something, to note that there would be a required buffer along that northern property line.
So then it would, in order for the citizens to be assured that this buffer takes place, and we would need to amend this to have an overlay that requires it. Is that what you're saying?
I think my recommendation would probably to, if the motion is to approve, to add that stipulation on the motion for voting.
And in terms of how we define that kind of tree buffer, is there any language that can be pointed to?
You can point to following the buffer yard B, which identifies kind of those quantities that's going to occur on the other property lines. That may be a way of doing that, or if you want to write the own or specify the specific requirements of that.
I'm not going to draw any trees. Buffer what?
Buffer yard B is the buffer yard that's required between office warehousing and commercial. That would be one way of looking at that they would be installing along the eastern and southern property lines where it butts commercial property.
Buffer yard?
Buffer yard B.
Buffer yard B.
So we have 3 buffer yards in the ordinance. There's a chart that kind of identifies proposed use, existing use you're abutting to, and it tells you when you have to have a buffer yard A, B, or C. Buffer yard A is a 15-foot in width with some plantings, but no fence or berm. Buffer yard B is 25-foot in width with an additional increase of plantings and the fence and berm, and buffer yard C is a 40-foot width buffer yard with plantings and a fence.
And buffer yard B would fit this particular layout then?
The buffer yard B would fit this layout.
Okay, thank you. I'm moved to amend the ordinance by including an overlay requiring buffer yard B to run along what direction?
That's north.
Northern, beginning with the existing climate control building to the end of the property line.
I have a question.
Mr. Campbell?
Will amending this ordinance cause a delay? And
I can answer.
okay, and then I'll say why I'm asking, but
Okay. Amending the ordinance would be a substantive amendment, and so it would trigger it to go back to a first reading in the manner at which it was proposed. I believe you could, if an alderman would like to make a motion to approve with a condition, like a motion to adopt as an ordinance, that would be a different way of going about it. That would not delay it.
I would prefer not to delay it because this is something that in my opinion, the applicant has went beyond where he needs to go, and to cause him that extra work would be unreasonable. I would ask Mr. Galloway maybe to reconsider with the attorney's advice.
Sure, I can. I will just say that I don't think it's unreasonable for the delay. I'm glad there's a way not to delay. I mean, I was going to vote against it unless we had something here. So, and urge other people to as well. How would I phrase that amendment?
Be a motion to adopt.
So you're making your motion to adopt contingent upon additional requirement. So if the sponsor was so inclined to add that to the motion to adopt, that would be one way to achieve this goal.
Then I'll defer to Mr. Flores if he's interested.
To make the motion itself.
if the sponsor is prepared to make a motion to adopt the bill. Write them down.
I'm going to.
I'm cycling
I'm
through
going to
people.
attempt this for you, Bruce. I make a motion to adopt, let me go back to this. Bill 3391 with a conditional overlay for a buffer yard be running along the north side of the property
As ordinance number.
as ordinance number 22-055.
Second.
All right. Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Galloway to adopt bill number 3391 as ordinance number 22055 with a conditional overlay requiring a buffer yard B along the northern boundary of the property east of the existing building to the property line. Okay. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Alderman Flores,
Aye.
Alderman Alder. Aye. Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Gardner,
Aye.
Alderman Snyder. We have 5 aye votes, 1 nay, motion carries.
All right, Mr. Galloway.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3392 on its second reading by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell, to place bill number 3392 on its second reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance amending the budget of the city of Ozark, Missouri for the 2022 fiscal year.
All right, any additional questions, comments, concerns with regards to the amending of the budget? Hearing none.
Your Honor, I move that we adopt bill number 3392 as ordinance number 22-056.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt bill number 3392 as ordinance number 22-056. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Alder. Aye. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Gardner.
Aye.
Alderman Snyder. Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Mr. Gardner.
All right, I move that we put bill 3393 on second reading by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Gardner, seconded by Alderman Campbell to place bill number 3393 on its second reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract with SAK Construction LLC for the 2022 sanitary sewer rehabilitation project.
All right, any additional questions, comments from concerns, pardon me, with regards to this bill? Hearing none. Would you like to adopt?
Oh, yes, I would. Could you please have her? Yes, I move we adopt bill 3394 as ordinance 22-057.
How about we do 3393 instead?
Say 94.
Yes, sir.
Had to do my bifocals. Want me to restate that, sir?
I think we got it for the record. For the record, motion was made by Alderman Gardner to adopt bill number 3393 as ordinance number 22057, and that was seconded by Alderman Campbell. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
Alderman Gardner.
Aye.
Alderman Alder. Aye. Alderman Snyder. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Mr. Galloway?
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3394 on second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell, to place bill number 3394 on its second reading by title only. All those in favor?
An ordinance reaffirming the declaration of an area of the city of Ozark, Missouri blighted and unsanitary pursuant to chapter 99 of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri.
All right, any additional questions, comments, and concerns with regards to this bill? Hearing none.
Your Honor, I move that we adopt bill number 3394 as ordinance number 22-058.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt bill number 3394 as ordinance number 22-058. May I get a roll call, please?
Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
Alderman Alder. Aye. Alderman Snyder.
Aye.
Alderman Gardner.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes. Motion carries.
All right. Report of officers, boards, and committees. City Administrator Steve Childers.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to draw my attention to the document that was laid upon you this time. The dinner and a tour with our partners in progress that includes the Ozark School District, the Show Me Christian County, and the Ozark Chamber Board. And we are going to be at the Innovation Center. The tours begin, as you can see on your agenda, at 6 o'clock. I know you've probably taken some tours over the time that's been built. It is, if you haven't in a while, and it's done, it's open, it's functioning, it's really worth walking through, just to see how it really is working out. Anyway, so we're going to get your attention. Also, I wanted to let you know that I received some information, and we'll get this to you in an email. But much like the Ozark School District has a strategic planning session, the Ridgewood Valley campus, they know they're going to expand, they're going to be extending their agricultural program. They have some plans out there in that area. It's a wonderful piece of property, and they're just inviting us to be a part of that. It's not for plenty of time, but I just wanted to let you know, get you an email on that. They asked me for that. And last but not least, again, we'll be finalizing tomorrow at appointment meeting for the September 30th Board of Alderman working session. And so we'll get that in after we do this. Go ahead.
Do you know where it's going to be?
Yes, right across the street, where you use the venue on the brick. We have gotten by the right breakfast lunch. Should be out there about 4 o'clock. I'll look back. Okay. That will go on your own. I'll give you a shot.
All right, perfect. We had a written report from the OC and Park and Recreation that was in your packets. You also had a written report from the Planning and Development Department. Mr. Smith is here if anyone would like to ask any questions or if you'd like to highlight some of your report.
On one item, there was a question asked about the existing Pizza Hut facility here in Ozark. I did reach out to them and they, at this time, it's a direction from corporate. They do not have any plans to go back to dine-in eating. They also do not have plans to utilize the existing dine-in space in the facility. So until we hear more, they're pretty much just going to operate by takeout or delivery. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
How's Whataburger coming along?
Moving along very quickly. That, as far as we know, they're still planning to open in November.
And Starbucks?
Starbucks, they have got their site plan approved again for the facility. We are in kind of combination with Starbucks. We are waiting for the resubmittal of the Take 5 oil change, which will go next to Starbucks. They're kind of running those together. And I suspect when they go to construction, they'll be working on those at the same time.
is.
Alderman Alder, Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Flores. Alderman Galloway. Alderman Gardner. Alderman Snyder. We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
All right, wonderful. Any additional questions, comments, concerns from the members of the Board of Aldermen? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Mr. Galloway made the motion, seconded by Alderman Alder to adjourn this legislative session. All those in favor? That motion carries 5-1. I couldn't see it through his body.